time. And I think that we are recording. Yep, we're good to go. All righty, folks. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We may have a small group, but we're a small but mighty group today. So thanks for joining us and for being flexible with your time. All right, we want to kick things off with a little fun Twitter inclusion activity. We're not really going to go onto Twitter, but what we are going to ask you guys to do, and if you've just joined us, Samaja, they might need the link to the presentation one more time. But once you're in there, you're going to see a link to a Jamboard. And what we would ask you to do is on the Jamboard, include some sort of a hashtag or an @ with your tweet, 140 characters or less, just describing your start to second semester. This could get interesting. So we'll just kind of do a real quick 1-minute inclusion. If we can get to the Jamboard, let me know if you have any trouble. I'll go ahead and pull it up and we'll kind of see where we land in terms of our tweets. So go ahead and do that as soon as you are able to.
You said this is in the slide, the PowerPoint?
I'll
Yes.
add it to the chat one more time.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Oh, I know. I saw the problem. I think I put the wrong. I copied the invitation.
Oh, gotcha.
I know.
That's all right. I can grab it if you need me to.
I got it. Thanks, Mary.
Sure thing.
Okay. There you go.
All right. Alicia, do you see it now? Perfect. All right, I added my hashtag in there. Full disclosure, I'm a terrible hashtagger, but I think I can get this one. All right. Well, I'm hoping that the Jamboard is opening for everyone. That's lovely. Oh, more work than play.
That's me.
That sounds about right. Hashtag overwhelming. Yeah. This sure has been one unique start to a second semester. Hands down. A lot of help. Giving or getting, maybe a little bit of both.
Getting for sure.
Getting for sure, yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you have folks out there that you could go to for help. If we're gonna spin it in a positive way. So I know that there's a whole lot going on these days, isn't there? And believe it or not, I know that a lot of us are juggling multiple things. I think this is just about all of us. So more work than play, bit of a roller coaster, needing a lot of help, and it can legitimately be overwhelming sometimes. Very honest responses. And yet moving forward, hopefully we'll start to level out just a bit. Maybe some of those supports will guide us in the right direction where the overwhelmed feeling might be a little bit less. Almost there. I love it. Almost there. We're so close. You can almost taste the spring break. This close. Well, thanks for playing along. And Samaja, are you going to take it from here?
Yes. All right. So for some of us, I know that you've met us before, but if not, we do see some new faces. My name is Samaja Smith, and I am an instructional coach in the University City School District.
I'm Mary Lowe. I'm an instructional coach in Hazelwood. And Juliana Dempsey, also one of my counterparts in Hazelwood, she is under the weather today. So unfortunately, she will not be joining us, but she sends her best.
just to give you all a heads up, my internet can be unstable. So at any point, if I freeze, just give me a moment and I'll come back to. Okay. All right. So I won't read this verbatim, but just short and sweet. This is a requirement of all Academy teachers. This is an opportunity for you all to collaborate with your colleagues. It's an opportunity for you to share, problem solve, and then reflect on your skills. And as you reflect, plan for adjustments. So that's our purpose. And then our outcomes. We always want the positive experience. We want a report that's saying that learning has occurred from you, that you indicate that learning has been useful or will be useful. And then our intermediate outcome, we want 100% of the participants to implement the Academy HLPs, the high leverage practices, with fidelity as measured by our observation and fidelity checks. And then lastly, overall, we want the student success. We want them to be able to perform in a proficient or advanced range on state English language arts and math assessments. So our agenda, our flow today, we of course welcome. Again, it's good to see you all, despite the roller coaster and the fluctuation of emotions, but it's good to still see you all. We will discuss explicit instruction. We'll do a check on explicit instruction, how we're doing in our districts, and then we'll look at professional learning review, and then we'll discuss important dates, and then we'll let you go on your way. Celebrations for our high leverage practices, for high leverage practice 7. Okay, so taking about 30 seconds, looking at our data in the style of just sharing out. So what I would ask you to do is just unmute yourselves and share some celebrations. What are you noticing about our data in this first column overall?
And I do want to mention that we have broken this data down into just the districts represented in this group. So this is just Hazelwood and University City teachers. And yeah, this first column right here is the overall average of all of those months, if that helps at all. So HLP 7, our learning environment. What do you guys notice?
It looks like it's getting better as the months are going along. So it started off in September at 66, but now it's at an 83. So it's going up, which is a good thing.
Agree.
Thanks, Alicia. Absolutely.
Anyone else?
I think it looks like it went down and then it went back up, I guess. So at the first row, yeah.
Okay, so like around in September, it was in the 60%
Yeah.
and then it went down to the 50s and then back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it out. Anyone else? Well, thank you all for your comments. You're definitely right. We do have a lot to celebrate. Sorry about that. We are above, I would say above average in explicit instruction and learning environment. Mary, do you have anything to share out?
Nope, I would agree. You can kind of tell just by the shading. I know this data comes straight from KickUp. So if you're looking at how or where that data comes from, it's KickUp. And the way KickUp codes it by color is the darker the shade of green, the better off you are. So you can tell that in our learning environment, which is one of the first things I know that you guys got those universal walkthroughs right away when school started. We've seen a lot of growth and we are definitely in the above average range, the solid dark green. And explicit instruction, we made it out of the yellow, which is huge. And it looks like we're solidly in the green on average, not quite so much, but we're getting real close. So many good things happening.
Okay.
You want me to click ahead, Samaja?
Yes, ma'am.
You got it.
Okay, so right now what we're gonna do, you're going to use the explicit instruction checklist. Let's take a peek at that.
So it will ask you to make a copy, and that's totally fine. That's so that you can actually have your own. You can print it, mark on it, or edit it if you want to.
Yes. And what we're gonna do, a few slides down, we're going to actually watch an explicit instruction, different parts of an explicit instruction lesson. So one video will be the opening of an explicit instruction lesson, and we'll kind of rate that teacher together. And then another video will be the body of an explicit instruction lesson, and then the closing. Okay, and we'll kind of collaborate, calibrate, and yeah. Okay, any questions about that? I'll add the link to the presentation again in the chat for those who may not have it pulled up, and it's on slide 10. Okay. Next slide.
You got it.
Okay, so in the strategy of popcorn, so what I would like for you to do is just simply unmute yourself, almost like we were doing before. We're going to talk about, I would like for you to take a moment and think about some things that we could celebrate. Think about looking at the data about the opening. Think about things that, wonderings that you may have. And then lastly, what are some things that we might need to prioritize when it comes to the opening with explicit instruction? So again, I'll repeat that. Take a moment, look at the data. What are some things that we could celebrate? What are some trends that you might notice? And then what are wonderings you have? And lastly, what might we need to prioritize moving forward in the next few months? Okay. Give you about 45 seconds to look it over and then be ready to share out. Okay.
Sorry,
what
can
are
I
you
get
guys
a
seeing?
couple more
Who
seconds?
would like to start off?
I'm just
Alicia?
trying to look at the data. Can I get a couple more seconds?
Absolutely.
One thing that I've had noticed, it looks like it's kind of at a standstill. It's not going up at a constant rate. Like for includes measurements of student learning, it just kind of stays. It looks like between the 40s and 50s. It got super low. This is for February, right? Yeah, so that
it's
means it went down like significantly from what it started with.
Mm-hmm. But overall, we're in the 50th percentile right here in the first column.
Oh, okay, the first one is
Yes.
overall.
That's overall. So that's like an average of the months.
I mean, it seemed the month before was up, but then it just dropped drastically.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So just thinking about things that we may need to prioritize, that might be an area that as instructional coaches, we could lend more support, more coaching in that area for teachers.
And Alicia, you really got me thinking, because if you're looking at that first column as an average, chances are that final column was our last data point, which was probably January-ish.
Mhm.
So when you think first semester, and then we get that nice 2-week break, and then comes January with our, if we just think environmentally, all the things that happened in January that may have led us to some of those feelings of a roller coaster or feeling overwhelmed with COVID and folks getting sick and snow days and ice days and AMI days, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, I wonder how those outside factors can impact some of these things, even though we were making some steady growth. So I don't know, some things just to think about.
That makes sense.
Thank
Great
you for
noticing.
sharing out. Yes.
Smaja, you want me to stay here or you want me to roll on to the
We
body?
can move on. Is there anyone else?
Sorry.
Okay. All right, and then the same thing, I'll give you time to look at the data. Remember that the first column is our overall growth, or overall averages.
Just gonna check one thing real quick. So there is a bit of the body data on the next slide as well. So feel free to go back and forth on your own screens if you need to check that out.
About 30 more seconds. Okay. Any wonderings, celebrations, trends?
I'm gonna go ahead and click over to the next screen too, just so you can kind of see some of the averages when you break it down.
One trend that I noticed is that we are very solid and have been very solid and consistent in our body. I would say we average about in the 60 to 80 range consistently.
Yeah, I saw the same thing. I didn't think that they were horrible numbers. If you're talking about the whole district, like different school buildings, I thought it was fine. I mean, there's always room for improvement, but I didn't think the percentages were horrible.
Yep, Alicia, we're definitely in the steady green, a shade of green, right? So we've definitely got some good things happening. It looks like this next slide that I'm going to go to in a minute really settles in on the lighter green areas. So when you think about the body, the very beginning part of the body, so the elicited model and the mastery model, curious to see how we're kind of landing in the 60s. And it looks like we've made some growth and then maybe had a few dips. Bless you, whoever is Smaja, I think, bless you. But again, looking at this last, like our last data point before the average was taken, I'm interested to notice kind of a lower dip again, just like we saw in the previous data, right?
Mhm.
Interesting.
And like those points you kind of mentioned, thinking about it, that's probably why they're so low. Because we had so many snow days, so many kids that were going and coming back, going, coming back. So that could be why.
How were the how was it in your buildings with the staff? I know in some of the buildings I support, it was the kids who were in and out, but some of the staff got hit hard.
It seemed like our students, we weren't missing that many students, but like our staff, right around the time when we came back from like New Year's and Christmas, a lot of staff were out getting sick. And so that was it too. We were having subs in and out. I know I was out at some point, so it was a lot.
Yeah. Tammy, how about you guys?
You have it on mute. Oh,
There you
Yeah.
go.
I know.
Very good.
I was trying to find it, but ours hasn't been too bad. I know, like, there was like some of the students missing, but not too much. And then we had, the AMI at home, and a lot of the students didn't do anything, but more did than I thought, especially in science. So it wasn't too bad. I think most of the staff, I think maybe just one day.
Oh, wow.
And some people were stuck, like, because it's worse over in Illinois. That's where I live. I know some areas got more snow. So, like, a lot of schools in Illinois canceled Friday too, but we did it over here. So
Wow.
some of the people driving kind of further, I think, didn't come staff wise, but yeah.
But otherwise not too bad. All right. I'm not sure. Hey, Miranda.
Hi. So at our building, I know that a lot. I mean, we had more staff than students in our building most days in January. Is I think literally every single one of our classes got quarantined except one.
Ooh.
At one point. It is pretty bad in January.
Wasn't it your teacher of the year who had like the one remaining class?
Yeah, it was she ended up getting teacher of the year this year. So
There you have it, right? That's
poor,
why.
poor thing. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The only one with students. Yeah.
So we definitely have our hunches as to why some of the data might look the way that it does.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Ms. Green, I certainly don't want to leave you out, but if you're there and you have anything to contribute, please feel free.
I was just gonna say, I think that also being January into February, I think it follows that sort of teacher graph where you look at the teacher's attitude and kind of where they're at mentally. Also plays a role into a lot of the data we're seeing here too, especially during the explicit instruction, how we're planning our instruction. I think it follows that sort of graphic. I think that makes sense why we're seeing this dip as well.
Thank you. I was trying to catch it. I think I heard a couple of glimpses of sometimes the graphic, like the organization of the explicit instruction model can certainly be a help or an aid, particularly when times get tough, like some of these data points. Ms. Green, I'm sorry if I paraphrased what you said. Let's see. All right, Samaja, you want me to click one more over?
Yes, please.
All right, gotta hit the closing.
All right, and our closing.
What do you guys think?
Compared to the opening, the body, what are your thoughts?
I noticed that like in February, it increased significantly, the closing, which is so weird because the body and the opening were so low, well, lower, way lower. but then the closing is like way up there. So I don't, would this be like the exit ticket or like cleaning up routine? Like, is that what you consider closing? Oh,
That's-
reviewing learning objectives, previews the content. Oh, okay.
You're good. You definitely had definitely part of it. So
Mhm.
interesting that one of the data points I think somebody brought up in the opening had something to do with like communicates learning standards and talks about the measure of student outcomes.
Mhm.
And a theme, I saw it in the data here, but even just in my own personal experiences is folks always like they post learning targets and they tell students what's going on. And yet that measure of success for the day, like, hey, I know you're going to get this. Before you leave today, I'm going to ask you one question or something like that. It kind of connects right here to this first one. Like, did you take a quick assessment, like an exit ticket, like you just said, Alicia?
Mhm.
So that kind of does fall right into here. Do we review the objectives? Think about how that will impact our next lesson, all those kinds of bits and pieces. Anybody else? Samaja, do you have anything to add?
Thinking about things that we need to prioritize for our opening and our body. What are some things that we might need to prioritize? What are your thoughts?
I don't know about any of you, but when I look at the colors just alone, in the opening, I see some yellow, but a lot of green, a lot of green, a lot of green. And then even just by colors, it personally makes me wonder, what's going on with our closing on the whole? Although I do see where we're seeing pockets of improvement. So just one observation. Don't know if anybody wants to add to that or has any questions.
No, but something that needs to be worked on because, like, yeah, it improved the last month, the current month, but before then, so it may just be something about this month. But just having that be consistent. So still working on it.
Looking for that consistent growth over time, not just a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense. Thumbs up if you agree with Tammy. Nice.
Okay.
Thanks, Miss Green. I saw the virtual thumb. That was pretty cool. I like it. All right, Samaja, are we ready to roll again?
We're ready to roll.
All right. So in the heart of using that data to help us kind of guide our next steps, there are a couple of tools that, one, we've already seen, some ideas that we're not going to spend a ton of time on today, but we want to make sure you guys have access to, and then an opportunity to share out. So and I think Samaja alluded to this a bit earlier, we have 3 videos included in this presentation. And one focuses on the opening of a lesson, one focuses on the body, and the last one focuses on the closing. And here's what I would suggest and offer to the group as we move forward. Up here where it says checklist, that is a link just to what you guys had opened up before. It's still the, I don't want to make another copy of it. It's our checklist. Sorry guys, I have about 1,000 tabs open today. There it is. We have our checklist for high leverage practices 16 and 7. So high leverage practice 16, in fact, you have to scroll down just a little bit to get there. You'll start up at 7, but just keep scrolling. And this is the exact same tool that your instructional coach will use when they come in to observe one of your lessons. So what we would like to do is take some time to watch some snippets. Maybe not spend a time watching the entire lesson, but we are going to take some time to look at pieces of lessons. And you're each going to get a chance to rate this on your own, just to see what you see. And so the first one we're going to kind of do together, and that has to do with the opening of the lesson. We're going to watch a couple of minutes, and then we're going to talk about how would you guys rate this? Would you say that this teacher grabbed attention either not at all, kind of, sort of, or absolutely positively, yes, this teacher was able to grab attention? That not observable would only be for something that you would not expect to see. So for example, in the opening, I would likely expect to see all of these things. And yet, depending on the high leverage practice, you may or may not expect to see a full-blown assessment in a 10-minute walkthrough. So for our purposes, you probably won't have to use this column very much. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so we're really going to look at what is not evident, partially evident, or fully evident. What I would propose, and Samaja, if you're good with it, is we do a snippet of our introduction together so that we get a feel for the tool. Based on the data, we know that we're feeling pretty strong about the body, but where we saw some, I don't want to say deficits, but we saw smaller snippets of growth was in the closing. And so when we get to this section, I'm going to invite everyone to watch this on their own, and then we're going to come back together as a group to have a conversation about it. Samaj, are you good with that plan? Good, perfect.
I'm good with it. Mhm.
Awesome, thank you. So for Tammy, Alicia, Miranda, and Elizabeth, do you guys have access to that tool? Something that you can reference while we watch this video? Thumbs up if you've got your tool, or you at least have it ingrained enough to be able to talk about it.
Oh, yes, I think I'm okay.
Awesome,
Yeah.
thanks Tammy, thanks Alicia. I see Elizabeth, thank you, Miss Green. And Elizabeth, if you prefer for me to call you Liz, just let me know. All right, so what I'm going to do is, since I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to hit play on mine, and I'm going to check in to make sure you guys can hear it okay. If you can't, that's okay. I have a backup plan, but we're going to start there. Are we ready? This is just the opening. We're going to watch a portion. So let's give it a go.
I can't hear it, but I think you need to turn it up
Okay.
on your actual screen.
Alrighty, folks, that's not playing nicely for us. So we're going to go to backup plan B, and that is not a problem at all. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. This video says it is 10 minutes long. We're not going to watch a full 10 minutes of this video. What I am going to ask you to do is start with the first 3 minutes, 1, 2, and 3. And on your own screens, I'm going to ask you to play it so that you can watch it for 3 minutes. You are welcome to turn your camera off so that you can watch this on your own. And then at the 3-minute mark, I will turn my camera back on, and that'll be our cue for everyone to come back together on the Zoom and have a conversation. Okay? So we're going to do camera on or off. That's your choice. You hit play on your own screen for 3 minutes. When I turn my camera back on, everybody else come back and join me. Are there questions about the process? Okay. All right, so that being said, you should have this on your own. I will turn my camera off, and I will see you again in 3 minutes. All right, enjoy. Okay, if you can hear me, start coming on back. I'll know you're ready when your cameras are turned back on. Thanks, Amaja. See you, Tammy.
Outside to your right.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, good to see you. And if you need to turn your camera off, I totally understand, but I'm glad that you got where you're going. And Alicia, I know you might be here and there and anywhere else, so I trust that you just join us when you're able to, and welcome back. All righty, folks, we saw just a snippet of that lesson. So if I pull this up, let's just do this with a fully would be a thumbs up, a partial would be a thumbs to the side, and a thumbs down mean I did not see this at all. What would you say for her opening? Did she gain the student's attention? I see a thumbs up. I see an up. All right. So yeah, when you're thinking this one, we're mainly thinking it could be some kind of a fancy grab or hook like they used to talk about in college all the time. And yet the idea is before the teaching begins, do we have all students' attention? And yes, she did. How about posting and reviewing the learning objective and the measure of student learning? How did we do here? Same system with your thumbs. Okay, so we have a bit of a discrepancy. Tammy, do you mind me asking, what did you see or hear? Because some of this was a little bit tricky to see.
Is that what she put like on the little board and leaned it up against something?
It's kind of hard to tell a little bit. So could she have been?
Yeah, because I thought, because she said something and then she put the one whiteboard and she said, I'll sit it over here so we can see it. And it was standing up against the hand sanitizer. I thought that's what that was, maybe not.
It was a little bit hard to tell. So I'm glad that we're having the conversation.
Okay.
Now, if you were in the classroom, obviously you could do a little bit more digging and see for sure.
Yeah.
If that was her learning target, then we could say yes, or at least a partial. At any point, did you guys hear a measure of how she was going to judge at the end of the day? Yeah, no, I kind of missed that part. So even if we presume positively that she did write those targets out, we're still looking for that measure of success. How about an agenda? Did you guys see the agenda? Yep, I didn't see that one. Yep, Alicia, we're voting with a yes, fully, we saw this, we saw partial, or we saw no.
Sorry, right when you came in, my principal came in. So I had to turn my video off. So I'm gonna go back and watch the video. It's in the slide link, right?
It is, yep, you absolutely, you can go back anytime at all. And we're just about to move on, so you're in good shape, no worries. What about relevance to practical application? How we're gonna use this in real life? Miss Green? All right, I heard a thumbs to the side. What makes you say that?
I think she was getting there. I like how she had him do it with a picture first, and then she talked about symbols. I would have never used the word symbols when teaching math. I would like say, can you write this as a number? So I said partial because I think she was getting ready to get to that point of like, where do you see these fractions in real life?
So you definitely see an opportunity where either she was going that direction, maybe she could have gotten there a little bit quicker, not really sure. But if we had a little bit more time, we could have made a more steady observation. Yep, hands down, I would agree with you. And last but not least, those critical prerequisites necessary for basically for learning. What were the things we needed to know before today that would help us learn what we're gonna learn today? Did you guys hear any reference to that? Got it. I gotta know. No, we got it. Not too sure, Tammy? Nope, Tammy was down. Sorry. Liz, you're in the middle? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the middle. The teacher didn't reference it, but it was very evident that they had done this before because they all knew what numerators were and denominators were. And then the little girl was able to explain what a numerator was and a denominator was, and you can't write a fraction unless you know that. So the teacher didn't reference it, but you could tell from the student's vocabulary that they'd done this before.
Gotcha. You bring up such a great point. So while it was evident that students definitely had skills and things that they had learned that would prepare them, the question always remains. As adults, we sometimes make those connections like, duh, we can't do fractions if we don't know numerator and denominator. Do our students always make those connections? Or do they sometimes need us to be more explicit? So again, it's one of those things to consider. You guys are spot on. You're good at this. This is kind of fun. All right. So were there any other questions on just the opening piece so far? No? All right, here's what I would offer for the last chunk of our time. The body of our lesson, again, the data seemed pretty positive there. So I would love to bring you guys to this last video. This one is a touch longer, but it is the full closing of the lesson. So I would invite, I believe this one is about 7 minutes long. I'm just gonna hit, yep, there we go. So 7 minutes and 30 seconds. I would invite us to, again, same process. We'll turn our cameras off. We'll watch for the 7 minutes and 30 seconds. I know that's a bit of a chunk, but this is an area where our data said we needed to focus. We'll come back to the checklist. We'll go through, we'll use our very same system. And after that, it's really all about kind of wrapping up our cohort for the day. So that would be my offering. Are we good? See lots of head nods. So again, feel free to turn off your cameras. I will turn mine off as well. We'll watch for 7 minutes and 30 seconds on your own. And when I turn my camera on, please join me. See you then. Hey, Miss Green, welcome back. Hey, Tammy. Hey, Alicia, welcome back. And Mallory, welcome. If you can hear me, not sure, but welcome. It's good to see you, or at least have you with us. All right, Samaja may have just stepped away for a moment. Hey, Mallory. Well, welcome. It's good to see you. Do you have access to the presentation? Yes. Yes. Okay, perfect. So as you can tell, we were just watching some videos. And we are just going to have a quick conversation now about the closing of the lesson. And we are using this data set right here, which you can see linked at the top of the screen. It's a checklist to help guide our conversation. So for example, we just watched the video on closing. So we're going to talk about these 4 areas. All right, team, let's do the same process as before. I saw it fully. Oh, not too sure. Or nope, I didn't see this one at all. In this lesson, as she was kind of wrapping up her content, did she do a review of just those critical pieces? Tammy says yes. Liz says yes. Sorry, I can only see some of you at a time, so I'm scrolling around. Yep, Alicia says yes. So she was definitely able to ensure they knew those terms. What about her learning objective? Did she take a moment to talk about what they were doing for that day and how their review met that objective? I got
A lot of
maybe
thumbs to the side.
Not
Yeah.
at the end, but she kind of did it like during it. She kept on saying, this is how we can use our context clues, like find context clues in the thing in the story.
yes. And my hunch would be that that was the learning objective for the day. So without seeing the full lesson or seeing maybe where she had those posted, that one was a little bit tricky for us to see. But you're spot on that that would be the connection we would look for. That makes sense? If that was the target, then we could maybe mark it a certain way. All right, student reflection and data collection. What about this one? Seeing some faces. Let's see some thumbs. Did we get this one?
Asked for like thumbs up and thumbs down at one point.
She did as part of her instruction. Liz, I thought I saw a thumbs down, but I was scrolling, so I might have missed it. Yep, you vote down.
Mhm.
Okay. So Samaja, I'm not sure how you would view this one. When I would look, this would almost be, in my mind, a summarizing activity. So once it is done and they have done their independent practice, that is finished. Before she left, then she would kind of do a quick assessment, or maybe even the independent practice was part of that assessment, but she would summarize it for them. Samaj, would you agree?
I would agree. That's typically what I look for.
Perfect. So Alicia, you're absolutely right. She did do that thumbs up, thumbs down, which is a great check for understanding during instruction. The fancy term that we like to use is like formative assessment during instruction versus this piece is a quick check-in like right before you leave. And it kind of ties into, then what the next lesson could look like. So based on that data, tomorrow we're going to blah, blah, blah. Did you guys see any of that in this lesson? Tammy, you say yes? Yep. So she was able to do a quick preview of what they were going to do next. Does it make sense how all of these pieces start to tie together? They kind of flow into one nice little conversation. I'm seeing some head nods. What questions might you have before we move into our last couple of pieces here? Any questions? Doing okay? All right, then we are going to switch gears just a little bit. Whoops, we're not playing a video. There we go. And really, we just wanted to spend a very few minutes just kind of giving a review of some of the professional learning that you've either attended or may still attend throughout this school year. So really, when it comes to continuous classroom improvement or CCI, many, if not all of you have likely had the chance to attend in the fall. So at this point, you should still be working through steps 1 through 8 in your classroom. And this is your data tool to help make sure that you're on track. Your coach has likely come in and already given you one walkthrough set of data using the same tool. And at this point, you've got your winter benchmark data. So you did your fall, winter should be collected, and then in a couple of weeks, we'll get to your spring. The big question on the table that I just want to touch on real quickly, and if you're not able to answer it now, that's okay, but I would encourage you to think about, in what ways are your cycles of improvement, those PDSA cycles, reflective in that winter benchmark data? So in other words, if you're seeing progress on your PDSA cycles, did you also see progress on your fall benchmark data or not? Does anybody have an answer they'd like to share? How many of you guys have a group chosen and have some cycles of improvement going, a PDSA going? Just a quick show of hands. Yes, okay. So we're working on it, we're getting there. Know that your instructional coach is there to support you through this process. The intention is cycles of improvement, those PDSAs, should indicate growth and that you should then see it on your benchmarks. That's the ideal state. We know that there could be some things that get in the way, such as COVID, illness, snow days, ice days, a million different reasons. And yet those are all conversations we're going to have with kids to help us problem solve. And that's really right here. That last question is, how might you consider sharing your benchmark data with students so that you can have those conversations and start making some decisions about what your spring is going to look like? Questions for me about classroom learning systems and CCI? So far, so good. You might be wondering about teacher-student partnerships, or TSP. You might have heard those letters. This is kind of like part 2 of your classroom learning systems training. CCI was in the fall. TSP is supposed to be in the spring. And yet we know that all of the sessions originally got canceled. And we have a few sessions now that are scheduled for folks to make up. If you have registered, congratulations, I'm glad you made it in. If you have not, or if you are on a wait list and you're not sure, I know that there will be one more session in April, and that session, the capacity has increased. So if you are still looking to get into a session of TSP this year, you likely can get into the April session if you hurry. If you are not in a session, you will likely have the option to attend over the summer and get paid if you want. So just be on the lookout for that information to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. That is a choice. You do not have to come in the summer, but if you do, you would get paid. And then there will be another, like a makeup session in the fall for folks that weren't able to do either this spring or summer. You could go in the fall. What I would offer are these questions right here, and these are truly personal walkaway questions. Knowing that many of you have likely not had the full content of teacher-student partnerships yet, maybe some, but not too many. Who might be additional stakeholders or folks with a real vested interest in the success of your classroom? How do you communicate with them? And how might their responses to you have an impact on what you're doing? Those are 3 pretty powerful questions that we'll get hit on pretty specifically in teacher-student partnerships. So if you haven't had a chance to think on that, I would invite you to do that before you come to training. Any questions for me regarding TSP? All righty. Then we have just some important dates for you to be aware of moving forward. Many of you may have already had, if not, you'll have it soon, your 3rd observation from your coach. for high leverage practices. So again, looking at explicit instruction, which is HLP 16, and HLP 7, which is your classroom environment. So those are the two data sets, one of which we looked at today. If you haven't had your third observation, be on the lookout. It'll happen very soon. We just kind of talked about teacher-student partnerships. Everything is available in KickUp through spring of this year. And then once we get our summer dates approved, we'll get that in KickUp. You'll also get a flyer from your coach that will talk about dates and times and payment and all that good stuff. It looks like your special ed coordinators will be coming in for their second observation. That likely already happened for you guys, but if it has not, you might want to follow up with your coordinator. Just a reminder about those veteran teacher observations. You're required to have 4 of them. Hang on, I'm going to move my thing so I can read exactly what's here. These are required for BTAP, so that Beginning Teacher Assistance Program. This is something we will likely talk about again at our next cohort if you've not already heard about it, but it's called BTAP. And that is a necessary component for you to move away from your initial teaching certificate to your extended, like 99-year, I can teach till I retire teaching certificate. But these 4 veteran observations are a required component of that. And you can log them on the professional learning log that your coach has shared with you. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, see your coach. We will have one more cohort before the year is out, and that date is to be determined. So be on the lookout for a calendar invite there. Samaja, did I miss anything? And anybody else, what questions do you have?
No, I think we covered everything.
Get it? All right. So if you guys have questions, please stop me, shout them out, let me know. One thing that I would just invite each of you to think about and maybe just put down, jot it on a little note, put it on your hand, on your whiteboard, on a Post-it at your desk. As you think about the end of first semester, and now that we're really getting on a roll with second semester, what were some of those routines or practices that you figured out really worked for you during first semester, balancing teaching with professional learning, with implementation? What things have helped you keep everything organized and flowing smoothly that you want to continue on for a second semester? And what might there be that you want to incorporate? Maybe there's something new that you're willing to give a try or you're excited to give a try. Go ahead and I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about that and make yourself that notation somewhere in a place that's important to you. All right. If you're still writing, go ahead and finish up your thought. If you're good to go, you're good to go. You might notice that this final bullet point is bolded out. And as I referenced a minute ago, that professional learning plan, that PL plan, is a document that your coach has shared with you. Again, if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, do talk to your coach. The reason why we're really encouraging you to do that is a couple of reasons, but first and foremost, you'll need to upload this document into Talent Ed when it comes time for your final conversation with your SPED coordinator. So you're going to want to ensure that that professional learning plan is up to date, ready to go, and that you can access it easily and get that updated into Talent Ed. Any questions about that? No, life is good. All right. Well, as always, your feedback is greatly important to us. And it's kind of in a light pink, but it's still there. If we could count on you guys to go on in, click your link, give us some feedback for how the cohort went today. And then there's your KickUp code right here. I know you guys have those links, but this is your chance to give us our feedback and go ahead and get that code in the system. And if there are no other questions, then we trust that you guys are going to take care of those tasks for us and then have a fantastic rest of your day. Samaja, do you have anything else to add?
It was great seeing you guys again. Be safe on the way home.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop on the record. If you need anything at all, let us know. And thanks, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day.